Hey folks, thanks for watching my video. If you are new to my channel, subscribe now and ring that bell for future notifications. Thanks. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in and watching today's comic recap. As you know, I'm recapping Spider-Man Life Story number 6, written by Chip Zdarsky. Now, before we dive in, I just want to say, I know there's been a lot of news and mixed feelings floating around recently about Spider-Man, particularly in the MCU and the future of the character and what that will be between the relationship of Sony and Disney Marvel. I personally, actually did like a funny skit teasing at this recent news. So check that out when you can, if you're on my YouTube channel. But honestly, you guys, I'm not worried about this whole Spider-Man leaving the MCU. And I'll tell you why. Number one, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is one of my top favorite Spider-Man films, period. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. It's one of the best Spidey films, in my opinion. Number two, Spider-Man Life Story is the Spider-Man adaptation we deserve and have been longing for. I love Tom Holland. I think his Spider-Man / Peter Parker is unique. But when I think of a great Spider-Man story, my eyes turn to Spider-Verse, Insomniac Spider-Man on PS4, and this comic book series, Life Story. So without further, setback, let's get into this recap. This book starts us off with Peter Parker, sharing some dialogue in a dream-type sequence, a flashback to the night of Uncle Ben's death. We are in present time, 2019, and Peter Parker and Mary Jane Parker are still happily married and old and gray. And Miles Morales finally shows up. I was so excited to see him make a good appearance throughout this book, which we will touch back on very soon. Peter and Miles are set off on a space mission while Peter leaves his wife and spider kids behind. Mind you, his daughter is now a Spider Woman, and his son seems to be doing heroic work, but more so out of costume as an Oracle type character. Peter and Miles then take off in a space jet headed into space. Here we learn Miles got his powers just like Peter did, and he took on the name of Spider-Man when the original Spider-Man was presumed dead. These two are headed to Dr. Doom's space station to shut down the Doomsday Machine, which will shut down all of Dr. Doom's tech. We also learn that mostly all of the other heroes are dead, including villains as well. Going on, Peter noticed they have company coming towards the space shuttle. He's not sure if it's good or bad, seeing as his spider sense isn't going off. Then, to our surprise, it's Venom, or Kravenom, which makes sense why Peter's spider sense didn't go off, because he also wore the suit years ago. Venom starts attacking and wrecking the two Spider-Men until Peter uses a device on his web shooter that triggers an immense energy burst of sound, causing the symbiote to dilute, and we see nothing but a skeleton of the remaining Kraven the Hunter. Which brings it all back, as I was wondering what happened with Kraven and the symbiote in issue 4. I'm also surprised and a little bummed out they never utilized Eddie Brock for Venom. But because of this story, focusing on the character of Spider-Man in real time, I can let that slide. Going on, the surprises don't stop. We soon learn that Miles Morales, Spider-Man, is actually Dr. Otto Octavius, or should I say Doc Ock took control of Miles' body, implementing his own consciousness. While, again, if you've been following, the Amazing Spider-Man, story arc, then this is definitely a huge callback to the Amazing Spider-Man 400 and the start of the Superior Spider-Man. I thought this was, a fun and interesting twist. In this confrontation, Peter and Miles, they fight each other. Then Doc Ock enters Peter's mind to try and mentally break him. While in the mind of Peter, Doc Ock sends all of Spider-Man's worst enemies to attack him. But Peter's not worried because he's got a Spider-Verse of an army to back him up in his mind. And I just thought this whole segment was a masterpiece. Almost like Spider-Man Far From Home, when we seen Spidey go up against Mysterio and how mind-trippy it was. While both of those villains are very different, I really got those vibes here because of the creativity in this battle scene. Now, how Peter defeats Octavius is brilliant. Simply a memory of Aunt May and a hug from her was enough to melt this guy's cold heart and get him to do the right thing and let Miles go free. For those of you who may be slightly confused, in this series, Doc Ock years ago was married to Peter's, Aunt May, and, up until she passed away. So seeing her again and hearing her voice and the conviction, understandably, was a correction for him. The space station is quickly self-destructing, along with the Doomsday device. Peter then grabs a hold of Miles Morales and puts him in a space pod, sending him back to Earth away from any potential danger. The explosions keep coming. There is no way for Spider-Man to escape, but the world would be saved and free from any future dangers of Doctor Doom. Then we get a scene that leaves me confused and in wonder on what happened next. We see the symbiote spread out directly in front of Spider-Man. Was this an attack? Or was the symbiote about to bond again with Peter before his last moments? Then we get a scene where Peter is thinking about Mary Jane and basically asking her if it's okay for him to go out this way. Is it okay for him to let go? Will the kids and the family be okay? What about Miles? And as the space station explodes, Peter says to himself, "You are my jackpot," referring to Mary Jane. And the screen goes black, concluding the life of Peter Parker's Spider-Man. In the next scene, we see Miles Morales pays Dr. Otto Octavius a visit, letting him know that Peter's funeral was today. Miles also expresses he wanted to kill Dr. Otto Octavius, seeing as he took over his conscience and his body. But Miles knew that's not what Peter would have done, so he won't either. Then Miles pays a visit to Mary Jane and checks up on her after the funeral. She then gives Miles one of Peter's classic Spidey suits, telling him he should have it and take on the mantle as Peter would wish. And that concludes Spider-Man life story. This is strange yet awesome to see, a character that I've known and loved my entire life actually get a real lifespan and a conclusion to his life. It makes it more real and you appreciate the character even greater reading a story like this. I just want to say thank you to the writers and everyone behind the creative team of this comic series, because this was like nothing I've ever read before in comics, even though it had familiar segments from Spider-Man's life moments. What did you all think of this book? So many emotions, right? Whatever your thoughts are, please share them in the comments below and go ahead and purchase your copy of this book here on Amazon. I go by ZentaiFit. Feel free to subscribe now to my YouTube channel for more awesome comic videos and more. Until next video, guys, thank you for being a part of the Z Squad. Again, if you are new to my channel, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you here for the next video. Until then, wham, bam, boom.